For more on this, our next guest is a man who has worn many hats and with quite a history in the anti-apartheid struggle. Popo Molefe was a founding member of the Azanian People's Organization, United Democratic Front, Secretary for the Transvaal region, and one of the accused in the Delmas Trial. He went on to play a number of roles in politics and in business after 1994, and he joins us now to remember Pravin Gordhan. Mr. Molefe, thank you so much for your time this evening here on SABC News. I mean, let's start off right at the tail end where your story ends off. And your most recent and very public engagement with Pravin Gordhan was in 2023 when he wrote a letter thanking you for your service as chair of the Transnet board. What was the nature of that engagement?
Well, thank you very much, Mbali. But I think it's important that we convey, before I respond to your question, our sincere condolences to Vanita and the daughters. I saw them at hospital the other day on their huge loss, because this tragic the big hand of tragedy has touched all of us again, as it did in recent times. The nature of the relationship and interaction with Pravin was that he appointed me chairman of Transnet board of directors at a very difficult time, which was akin to us, again, going back to the trenches. In this instance, the trench of fighting corruption, the struggle against corruption. And I remain dearly indebted to Pravin, because at a time when some of his colleagues had a difficulty with my struggle against corruption, as would have been seen in the days of Prasa when I confronted corruption, Pravin had the courage to defy all of that and appoint me, touch me when no one was willing to touch me. And we fought a very difficult struggle to try and clean up Transnet and restore it to what should be its glory in the coming years.
And I mean, you also have a very elaborate history with, the former and late Minister, Pravin Gordhan, and both of you having a history in the UDF. You also, you being the secretary in the Transvaal region, and also him a key figure in his coalition of anti-apartheid organizations. Did you ever interact with him during those days in the UDF?
Mbali, I was actually the National General Secretary of the United Democratic Front. When we set up the regions, yes, I was the co-secretary of the Transvaal region, but ultimately on the 20th August 1983, I was elected National General Secretary. We had been interacting with Pravin Gordhan before the UDF was formed. He had set up a mass organization called the Durban Housing Action Committee, but he was also active in the Natal Indian Congress that had recently been revived in the 70s. And he became part of the United Democratic Front Natal region. So we interacted. I recall very fondly moments when I used to visit him in his pharmacy in Durban. And we used to talk about how we need to build organization on the ground and stop being small organizations that appealed to the elite. And this was particularly important because by 1977, the brutal government of apartheid, the regime of apartheid, had crushed all the black consciousness organizations to which Pravin and myself had belonged to, and many other South Africans, clearly posing a new challenge as to whether we needed to all go underground or we needed to continue building the voice of the people above ground. And that is how we began building grassroots organizations. The Soweto Civic Association, the Umlazi Residents Association, Durban Action Committee, the Cape Housing Action Committee, and so on. So we interacted with Pravin, and I found him to be a man with an incisive mind, very strategic and very good in the application of strategy and tactics to advance the principles of the revolution. We have very little time. One of the very memorable moments that one could think of is when many of us who came from the townships of Soweto and the Transvaal went to a conference in December 1983, and we were debating a very difficult question where the South African government was pushing the colored and Indian people to participate in the elections for the houses, the parliament for these entities. And he and comrades like Yunus Mohammed introduced to us something very interesting when we were fighting about boycott of the elections. He said, but there's a thing called tactical flexibility. The tactical flexibility would mean advancing the principle, but adopting the tactics that enables you to carry the masses with you. The debate was centering around the boycott of the coming Indian and colored elections.
And Mr. Molefe, I mean, you speak a lot about your interactions with the former minister, and one would ask, earlier on in our interview, you spoke about visiting him in hospital. What was your last interaction with him while he was in hospital?
Well, the sad thing about my visit to hospital is that I was unable to talk to him, because I don't live in Gauteng anymore, and I had been in Limpopo without a phone. On Tuesday night, I got a message from my comrade Sidney Mofamat telling me that PG was in hospital and he had been asking about me. So on Wednesday, I went to the hospital, Donald Gordhan Hospital, and I found him there. We spent the whole day trying to get in to see him. The doctors were busy with him. We couldn't go in. Only after 2 o'clock was I able. Vani took me in to see him just for about a minute, but he was silent. He had been silent since morning. So I had no way of communicating with him. But I was very pleased that at least I had the opportunity to see his face before, you know, he breathed his last breath. So I was not able to talk to him,
and Mr. Molefe,
it was very sad for me.
Maybe let's just also talk about, you know, his legacy. I mean, it is really a mixed bag. I mean, we heard there with many really glorifying him, you know, for his role during the apartheid regime, and others like the EFF choosing to go in another direction. How would you characterize Pravin Gordhan's legacy?
Look, I think the journey of Pravin has been a very exciting and inspiring one punctuated by sustained moments of brilliance, bravery, commitment, and bravery in the sense that Pravin believes in human rights, he believes in the freedom of our people, and he believed that the struggle for freedom was not about us as individuals, but it was about the interests of the people as a whole and our country, that when we fought, we were not fighting so that a particular group of people should govern, but that the people themselves should govern. So he gave us that courage. His fight, step fight against corruption, is a great legacy that he has left for all of us. It's a monument that he built and left for great generations of the future. And I'm pleased that I had the opportunity to be part of that struggle, where together we were fighting to end corruption and to ensure that our organization, the ANC, would pick up the cudgels and confront this corruption as it is doing now, and that the Zondo Commission that was subsequently appointed laid the firm foundation for us to make a quantum leap forward in ending corruption and going after those who stole the resources of our people. That's the great legacy that he left for us, is the legacy of placing our people first, the legacy of building institutions of democracy, the legacy of ensuring that generations of the future make a mind shift that moves away from transactional politics to politics that places the people first in everything that we do in our lives.
And Mr. Molefe, as we reflect on the man, Pravin Gordhan, perhaps maybe if you can share with South Africans, what are some of the things that we really didn't know about Mr. Gordhan, and that he kept, quite close to those who knew him on a personal basis?
Well, I must say that Pravin was a man of great compassion. And this is reflected in him calling me whilst I was in the South Cape, also suffering from the condition that has taken his life now. And finding a specialist Chinese doctor to look at my problem. He was very much compassionate, empathetic. He is a man who wanted to save lives of others. Pravin was a very committed revolutionary, very tenacious in what he believed in, unstinting and unflinching when he pursued an objective. But I think Pravin also, there were times when he was so stubborn that you could believe that when he pursued something that he believed was right, he would not listen to anybody. And some of us would begin to think that he thought that he was the repository of all knowledge. But the man was a tactician, was a strategist, was a theoretician, and he was a very great man indeed. I think he played a great role in assisting us to define the manner in which we were going to conduct our struggle, and ensuring that that struggle broaden is based on the basis of non-racialism and pulling together a broad range of organizations that had been built by our people to advance our democratic revolution. We had our own fights with Pravin sometimes because of his stubbornness, but we would debate issues until at the end of our debate, we arrive at commonalities that would unite us again as comrades who have been in the trenches for years and who are defining the direction that the country must pursue and the goals that it must achieve through that direction.
Mr. Molefe, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for sharing those memories with the rest of South Africa. That is Popo Molefe there, giving us just some of the memories that he shares with the late and former Minister Pravin Gordhan.